Hello YouTube, my name's Sean Connors and welcome back to the Outsiders channel. Today, for the purpose of this video, we're going to be talking about changing the DMing perspectives. And what does this mean and what can it do for you? In the last video, inspired by Tim Harper, we talked about the enemy within, how we are our own worst critics as DMs. And for the purposes of this video today, I want to look at things in a unique way. This is something that I do every single campaign without fail. I try to do things. There are certain similarities between the campaigns, principles of the way that I operate as a GM, but there are also unique things that I will bring to that specific campaign. Not just a great story or any of those things, but it's actually my approach to the whole technique, the whole love of the craft, if you will. A friend of mine once said about changing perspectives, often as humans we have this wonderful picture in our head of how it should be, but the reality is far removed from that. That made me think about how I could illustrate the point to you about changing perspectives, and then I thought, well, there is an easy way, so let me just do that for you. Often we think about DMing as some sort of uphill struggle, when in actual reality, with a slight change, what we actually have is a much more even surface that's more controllable, and there's a lot more to it than we first thought that's actually within our remit to actually control and actually deliver. But it really depends on how you look at it and how severe you think the problems actually really are, when in reality they're not as bad as you first thought. But there's a number of things that you'll hear GMs do. So let's try and quantify everything. Let's try and go back and have a think about how other GMs will say this, change perspectives without actually talking about it. Often one of the ways that they do this is they'll often say things like, I've taken a break from DMing, I'm sitting on the other side of the table. Well, they do this because obviously it means that they can see the game as a player and also be in somebody else's game. So they're getting a fresh perspective of it. They're able to see that game and have a think about it, of their own game and what they can change. So basically they're cherry picking some of the best things that GM does and try to incorporate them in their own game. Because, you see, what happens is, over time, when you run a game successfully well, so when you've been doing this hobby for a few years, 2 or 3 years, you should develop a familiarity around the DMing technique, the DMing craft, that gives you a certain amount of confidence, because a lot of it is confidence, to deliver a good game. And you will have success at delivering a consistent game. Then you'll run into some very serious walls that are not obvious at first. It's a bit like the marathon runner who hits the 24-mile, 23-mile marker and suddenly just cannot get over the finishing line. It's that last couple of miles, that's the mental block to success, if you will. It's not the actual ability to run the 26, it's the fact that they've hit something and they just can't get over it. And this is really what it is. It's this perspective change. Because when you run something consistently well for a while, that you think it's always going to work that way, and in GMing it just doesn't work that way. Things change. A good example would be to use something like golf. Now, you can learn the principles of how to strike a ball well, how to drive. You could learn the principles through a book, you could learn the principles through another golfer. But ultimately, you have to learn it your way, because at the end of the day, you're not the same height as someone, you don't hold the club necessarily the same way, maybe your swing is slightly different for a number of reasons, there's loads of things that go into this. And so once you've actually successfully got a technique that works, you tend to stick with it, because you don't want to break it. It's a bit like DMing, you don't want to break it because it works. But something will happen along the way that changes that and makes you have to confront the fact that you have to change. It could be an injury, in the case of golf, and in GMing it could be a staleness that creeps into the game, a familiarity that the players get used to. And you start to think, yeah, my games. You start critiquing yourself, remember Tim's video and my own, and you start to tear your game apart. And often GMs will then look for a fresh perspective. So hopefully in this short prelude to the beginning of the video, I've set up where we're supposed to be. Now, I generally have always been, I think, very good at, and this is definitely an intermediate video, if anybody's watching and is new to GMing, don't think for 1 second that this affects you. It doesn't. Not until you've got a consistent technique and you start to run into this wall, then it will. And I suppose you could call this an intermediate video, really, for DMing technique. But once you've once you've begun to consider options about, say, going on the other side of the table and things like that, you need to start thinking of the whole thing. You need to go way beyond that. You need to really, that is just a tiny touch of that is the tip of the iceberg of what you can change in your games to make them fun, memorable, fresh, exciting, and keep the players coming back for more. Because that's what, and also exciting yourself, because that's what Change Your Perspective does. It excites you because you have to put yourself out on the edge. I often talk about put yourself over that little precipice. Is it going to work? So this could be things like theatre of the mind techniques. So it could be using the old dog collar, Reverend's dog collar. It could be putting hats on. It could be giving out props. It could be giving out fantastic homemade handouts. It could be the way that I love to, when we're talking tabletop gaming, I'm not talking online gaming here, but tabletop gaming, I love to get round the table. I love to be very animated. I find that because the players are naturally going to sit, and because I'm animated, it gives me a stronger position as a DM because I'm standing. Obviously their focus is me, and the beautiful thing about this is that I'm able to deliver more performance, if that makes sense, and it excites me when I do that, which I know then translates into the NPCs much better. So you know, these sort of things are very useful. On online gaming, by the way, we will come back in our videos in the future and talk about the differences between the various techniques and some things I've learned from running so far my first online game with Warhammer, and you know, what I've tried to do straight away to adapt to it and hope that it works. But shifting perception is very important. Also as well, things like moving the dice from behind the screen to in front of the screen, that's shifting perspective because it gets tension in the room. Those sort of things, that's what you've got to start doing. Even the table positions where players sit, light, the ambience, the music, everything is about this. Yeah, when you talk about changing perspectives, that's the reality of it. And you have to remember how all these things relate. And I can't fill in all the blanks for you. All I can do, really, is set the scene. So let's come back to my piece of paper. You can either look at this as a challenge that's uphill, or you can look at it as actually, oh, I can do that. Actually, that's not too bad. I remember what my friend said at the beginning, you know, life is about the picture you have in your head. And GMing is very much the same. You know, you constantly, I always say, I'm striving, constantly striving for perfection. I know I won't ever get there. But that doesn't stop me trying to achieve it, because I'm one of those types of people in life. I'm ultra competitive. I enjoy the thrill of the chase, if that makes sense. I love that. What this does, in essence, is it keeps my games very, very fresh rather than stale, and keeps me, as a GM, incredibly excited. And ultimately, that is the goal. You know, we talked, as I said right at the beginning, we talked in Tim's video last time about the enemy within. You are your greatest critic. How about changing that? How about changing that perspective and actually stop beating yourself up, actually? Why do it? Why create this uphill damn struggle about how crap you are, and maybe start appreciating the fact that what you're doing for those people in that room, for that game, for that moment, for that hour, is you're doing something pretty unique. And there's nothing to compare this hobby to, really. You could say it's like acting, but it's not. We don't have a script. It's free-forming. It's like LARPing, but it's not. And LARPing suffers from its own inherent flaws too. Role-playing is this unique ground which relies on each and every one of our imaginations. And because of it, it is much greater than the picture in our head. Anyway, I've been Sean Connors. This has been the Outsiders channel, talking to you about changing the GM's perspectives. I hope I have yours. Till the next time, take care of yourselves and happy gaming. See you soon. Bye-bye. Oh, and before I go, one final thing. You will notice that at the bottom of this video at the end, I'm asking from this point on, nay, begging, please give me 50 likes. Now, there's a reason for this. This way, I have them forced out of retirement. You are forcing me to actually produce a video when we reach 50 likes. How much fairer can I be than that? So if you'd like to see us back, give us a thumb up. If you don't want to see us back, thumbs down aren't going to work, actually, because if I get 50 likes, I'm still coming back. Anyway, take care of yourselves. See you soon. And thanks again. And share the video. And all the best. And see you. I'm buying. I'm going now. Bye-bye.